Daniel Dubois against Oleksandr Usyk this Saturday night in Poland, live on talkSPORT. Part of the talkSPORT team, he always gets these trips, Simon. It never fails to amaze me.
Indeed.
Spencer Oliver finds himself wandering around Poland now.
A luggage hold.
He's in Market Square, in right beside Stadium Wrocław in Poland. Spencer, good afternoon to you.
Gentlemen, how are we doing? Yep, we have just landed. We've just arrived, and this really is a beautiful city that we're at, and we're only a stone throw away from the stadium where there's going to be 43,000 Ukrainians. Where we're actually based right now, actually, I think there's 250,000 Ukrainians that actually stay in this city. So it is really a homecoming for Oleksandr Usyk. A massive task for Daniel Dubois, but one that he's relishing. I spoke to Don Charles, actually, the trainer of Daniel, earlier on today, and they're in really good spirits. They're really looking forward to this week, and more importantly, looking forward to causing one of the biggest upsets in world boxing history.
Well, I mean, I think Simon, like many things, Dubois, correct me if I'm wrong, Simon, Dubois can do exactly that and upset the apple cart in Poland.
I think he has the toolkit. Whether he can execute is a different discussion, but I think he's got the power and the physicality to do everything that Anthony Joshua didn't do in the first fight, which has sort of cemented the mythology around Oleksandr Usyk at this weight class. And the question for me is, even if he can't execute early, can Usyk do enough damage to deter him as it goes down in the later parts of the fight when Daniel Dubois will eventually land a punch on him? Do you think, Spence, Usyk can knock Dubois out?
I think that if Usyk gets the job done inside the distance, I think it will be late on, Simon. I think it will be somewhere around 8, 9, 10, somewhere around that sort of stage where he'll slowly, systematically break Daniel Dubois up, you know, with a volume of punches, you know, because he's not a knockout artist, but what he does is he's very accurate with his shots. And as you know, once he gets into that rhythm, he starts working the jab and puts those combinations together. I think for Daniel Dubois, what he needs to do, it's got to be educated pressure, but he's got to box with a little bit of rawness. He's got to do what you said, what you rightly said, Simon, is that Anthony Joshua didn't do, and that is apply the pressure and don't give Usyk the space. I think Derek Chisora showed the blueprint on how to beat Oleksandr Usyk, and that was to go in there and bully him. But he's got to be smart in doing that, because if he makes a mistake, he'll have to pay the price. But look, it's a massive opportunity here for Daniel Dubois. Respect for him for taking this opportunity in effectively Oleksandr Usyk's backyard, and you know, it's going to be a great fight, and he's going to give it a go, that's for sure.
As anybody in this weight class, because obviously we now are talking about Usyk as a legitimate heavyweight rather than a pumped-up cruiserweight, has anybody in this weight class detonated on him yet? Because whilst we talk about Derek Chisora mauling him and leaning all over him and using that extra physical size and strength, it didn't produce an outcome. We saw him fight Witherspoon, which was a nothing sort of fight, and we've seen him fight Anthony Joshua twice. But has anyone really detonated on him to be able to ask questions about whether he can take the power of a heavyweight?
No, they haven't, Simon, and that's the point. I think that Anthony Joshua showed him too much respect and he gave him too much space. And I think in the second fight, Joshua showed how the fight should have been taken from the early rounds. In round 9, he took the fight to Usyk, and Usyk looked really uncomfortable. He doesn't like it when he hasn't got that rhythm. He hasn't got that space to get off with his own shots. You know, he's a master at working things out. He's a great tactician. But I think that what Dubois has got to do is he's got to go in there and hit him. Like you say, he's a heavyweight and he's got real power. Don Charles speaks about the power. He says, listen, I've trained a lot of heavyweight fighters before, Derek Chisora, as we know. He said, but this power is something different. That's what we're going to find out on Saturday night. I think that if Oleksandr Usyk gets hit on the chin, how does he take it? Because I'm sure that Daniel Dubois will get in range. I think I give him a real shot. I really do. I think that, yes, he's a massive book, he's underdog, but, you know, this kid's young, he's raw, and I think he knows what's the task in front of him, and he's going to go for it. He's going to give it a real shot, and if he does that, we're going to see what Usyk's like when he takes a shot in the old Vera Lynn.
Do you think he's going to work? I mean, do you think he's going to work to the body, Spence? Because Nazim Hamid was talking about Daniel Dubois' ability to be able to work to the body. Do you think that's part and parcel of what Daniel Dubois needs to do? And secondly, does he have the technical ability to be able to stay in the fight until he gets an opportunity to detonate on Usyk? Because we know the possibility of Usyk being able to box his ears off.
Yeah, well, listen, Simon, that's another thing that we're going to find out on Saturday night. I think that Joe Joyce is a great yardstick for that. I think that Joe Joyce was the one that actually come with the tactics when Daniel Dubois lost to Joe Joyce, but Dubois wasn't able to switch it up. He wasn't able to, adaptability is what makes champions. And I think, when you become at this level, world champions, you've got to be able to adapt, like Oleksandr Usyk does. He can sit in the trenches and he can tough it out, but he's also a master at boxing on the outside and slowly chipping away and breaking his opponents down. Daniel Dubois is going to need that as well. I think that, he's one of those guys that's going to need that in the locker, and if he hasn't got that, he's going to find himself in real trouble. Like I say, look, 43,000 people in this stadium. By the way, the same stadium that on September the 9th, England played Ukraine in that stadium as well in the World Cup qualifier, and it's going to be, that's live on talkSPORT as well, by the way, but it's going to be an absolutely hostile atmosphere, and Dubois has got to be prepared for all that, because I know as an ex-fighter that going into that hostile environment like that can change the pattern of the fight. I think that he's just got to put the blinkers on, go in there, do what Don Charles has told him, and try and get the job done. But whether he can do that, Simon, we'll only find out on Saturday night.
I mean, let's say for the sake of argument, what Simon says happens and Dubois nails him. Where would that rank in terms of major upsets?
Jim, we're talking Mike Tyson, getting knocked out by Buster Douglas in Tokyo in 1990. We're talking about Lennox Lewis getting knocked out by Oliver McCall, Lennox Lewis by Hussein Rahman. That's where we're placing this one. Look, we know it's a massive task for him. No one thinks otherwise. Oleksandr Usyk is not just the best heavyweight currently in the world. He's one of the best fighters in the world. He's one of those heavyweights, the guys that normally come forward and, like to slug it out and have the big shots. Usyk's got a great boxing IQ, and that's what Dubois got to get past. He's got to get out there, and I think he's just got to take the fight to him, rough him up, and take him out of his comfort zone, because that is important.
Spence, just a curiosity on the administration side of the boxing world. Is there, in the event that Dubois wins this fight, is there a rematch clause in it for Usyk?
I don't think there's a rematch clause in it. I'm not actually sure on that one, if I'm totally honest, Simon. Like I said, we've just sort of landed, so we're just getting familiar with things.
I know,
I'm not sure that there is a rematch clause in this one. I did actually, Simon. We did phone you, mate. But actually, you rang me before I rang you back, actually. But as you can see, I'm very busy out here, Simon, so I really couldn't answer that call. So
well done, Spencer.
I rang you back and totally forgot you said. Listen, guys, don't forget this is live and exclusive on talkSPORT from 9 p.m. on Saturday night. Make sure you tune in for that one.
Spencer, thank you very much indeed for that. I know you have a busy afternoon ahead of you. High in your agenda is a visit to the Palace of Culture and Science. Enjoy that.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.